welcome John Magaro to Curzon Mayfair. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we're here to talk about.
It's lovely here.
We're here to talk about September 5th, which I'm very excited to get into. But before we do that, I want to take you all the way back to this film called Munich. It's not often that someone could say my first credit was a Steven Spielberg film, which is pretty cool.
But it's not I don't know if it counts as a credit, but my first experience on set was a Steven Spielberg film. That's true. Yeah, as an extra in Munich, background actor.
Yeah. What do you remember of your experiences of that and watching Steven Spielberg work?
I remember a lot of waiting around. I remember a lot of sitting in on street corners and alleys because it was in Brooklyn and New York. I was a young man who just moved to New York, looking for any chance to get on set. But I weirdly, as a background actor, I didn't get to really witness Steven Spielberg's process. Oh. So I was more just observing from a distance. But it was, I mean, it was just cool to see that world. I don't think I learned much. I learned that filmmaking requires patience. Probably that's the only lesson that I learned on that job. And I got to walk across the street from Eric Bana, so that was cool. And we worked together years after that, but I never brought it up to it. Yeah.
September 5th creates a bit of a nice full circle moment in a way because, you know, again, talking about the story of the Munich massacre, what did you feel about that? Coming back to,
I thought it was a funny coincidence, but I didn't pay much attention to it. Although it did make me revisit watching Munich, which I hadn't watched probably since 2005, 2006. Although our film, September 5 is very different. Munich covers the aftermath and the revenge of Mossad, and that's kind of their perspective. Ours is really focused on that day and what happened and how it was broadcast throughout the world. So some parallels, but a lot of differences. Yeah,
absolutely. When you're reading a script, what are you looking for? How many pages do you typically get into a script before you know this is something I want to do or this is something that's not for me?
I never really know if it's totally something I want to do until we get about to the last 10 pages. But I can tell if it's something I definitely don't want to do, usually within the first 15, 20 pages. I mean, it's pretty, usually it's pretty clear. There are times where if the style is very slowly drawn out, you might not be able to tell that quickly, but for the most part, by 15, 20 pages, you get a sense if this is the world you want to jump into or if it feels like you don't belong here. Yeah.
What was it about September 5th that made you want to jump into this world?
Jeff Mason, the character I play in it, he's being pushed and pulled in two different directions. He has this mentor in Rune Arledge, who's played by Peter Sarsgaard, and then he has this mentor in Marvin Bader, played by Ben Chaplin, and both offering two different sides of the media, one more progressive and maybe more sensational, which I think, as we see daily, the media has really become. I'm talking about the news journalism, 24-hour news coverage in particular, and then the more traditional sense of following a lead, making sure you have confirmation before you report it, being objective, and Jeff is caught in between these two worlds, but he has to advance his career, so which way do you go? So that dynamic was very clear on the page and really intrigued me because I thought that was something rich you could dig into as an actor. So there were a lot of reasons I said yes, including Peter being involved, Sean Penn being a producer, but really at the end of the day, so often is the case, the script is what really leads me to get about 98% to the point of saying yes or no. Yeah.
And I know that part of your process is finding that core inspiration, that anchor. What was that for you and Jeff? And did you get to meet him beforehand?
We talked quite a bit beforehand, but it was during COVID, and he lives in Florida. I live in New York. So as we all recall, there wasn't a lot of traveling and meeting up during that time. But fortunately, we were able to get on the phone, we were able to Zoom, talk a lot. And my intuit based on the conversations we have, because the conversations were just very important. Sometimes when you play a person who really exists, conversations can be derailing, but in this case, it was very, very helpful. And through talking to him, it seemed very clear that getting into control rooms would be key. Broadcast live control rooms would be vital. So he was able to arrange that, and for about 2 months I spent shadowing in New York at CBS Sports, and that was the key in. It was watching these directors and producers call live broadcasts, seeing the language, seeing their relationships in the room and the dynamics of power in these rooms that really gave me a foundation as I approached Jeff. I mean, it's almost like learning an instrument or conducting. Something's very musical about being in a broadcast control room, and it's very, very specific. So I knew that capturing that as authentically as possible would be key to getting Jeff right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If someone were to put you in a control room now and say, for the day, you're in charge, could you find your way now that you've done this?
I don't think so. I could probably sit and get people coffee, but I don't think I could actually call a live broadcast. I mean, it's like often is the case when we're learning this. You're never going to be quite as good as the people who actually do it, but as an actor, we want to get as close as possible.
Yeah.
But no, it really gave me a real respect for what these people do.
Talking about learning things for roles, I read in the interview that you will do anything to learn anything to make sure you get something right. What is the
Maybe
furthest?
not anything. Maybe not anything. But yeah.
What's the furthest you've gone?
I'm not breaking the law, but
good clarification.
The furthest I've gone.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, let's keep this PG. Furthest I've gone. I mean, one of the hardest things I've done. I'm gonna save some things for my diary at home. I mean, for this film Unbroken, which was an Angelina Jolie film, was about this guy Louis Zamperini who crashed in the Pacific during World War II and was in Japanese prison camps. And anyway, stupidly as an actor, we tend to fluctuate weight and stuff like that to get into a role. You know, that I did one of those crazy, Christian Bale machinist things where I lost 45 pounds. And I was basically starving myself to death. I was down to 105. Instead of breaking the fast properly, I just started pigging out, eating like cheeseburgers, and
I do not blame you one bit.
Yeah, like it got to the end, and I was like, I'm going crazy. It was like eat broccoli, and I mean, you can't do that. And a lot of these guys, when they were starving, these things they would eat, and then their heart just couldn't take it. So I started having these palpitations, and run down on the street, and this is in Sydney, Australia, and go into this cafe, and I'm like, call me an ambulance. Meanwhile, there's this American with soot all over his face, 105 pounds, just gone. And I'm sure they thought I was some sort of drug addict off the streets. But that was, I mean, it was one of those things you learn. You got to go far for some of these things, but you also got to do it in a healthy way. It was a lesson as far as that went, but yeah, that was pretty extreme. Yeah.
When you do go to the cinema, where do you like to sit? What's your favorite spot?
I'm an aisle person.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
I'm an aisle. I like to be on the edge because I'm an anxious person, and I don't like feeling trapped, which is also maybe why the tension in September 5 works, because I feel trapped. So you're feeling that real anxiety. No, I like to be able to sit on the edge. It just makes me feel like I like. And also, you can stretch your legs out.
That's a good point.
You don't feel like you're, like in someone else's space.
That's a good point.
So yeah, I'm definitely an aisle person.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. I'm more of a sort of center and the back, like 4 or 5 rows from the back person generally.
Center, yeah. I'm middle aisle. I can't go too close. That's hard, being too close. And then the back row's too far away.
Okay.
Yeah.
One question that I love to ask, what is the comfort film for you that you love to return to?
There was a time where I watched Back to the Future, the original, like every day for a year. So that was a really comforting film for me in my childhood.
That's amazing.
So that's a good one. Yeah, every day for a year. I'd come home from school and watch it over and over and over.
You must know that thing verbatim, back to front.
Pretty good. pretty good.
Has there been a recent cinema experience that's really stayed with you, walloped you?
Parasite a few years ago was intense.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
I mean, I think Bong is one of the greatest ones working out there right now. I mean, he is able to infuse. I'm also a huge, we just lost him, Lynch fan, David Lynch, and I find something really intriguing by, you know, Yorgos is doing this, where you take absurdism, but you find a way that still keeps it really honest and relatable, and has a lot to say about society, socioeconomics, politics, things like that, history. I think that's one of the hardest challenges, and he does that so well. Those are the kinds of films that I really, they're not necessarily comforting, but I think that's okay. I like when cinema pushes me out of a comfort zone. I think the greatest and most profound cinema isn't about comforting. You know, like, I think it should push you to a point where you're questioning, where you're uncomfortable, where you're emotional, where you have some sort of visceral, angry, just a visceral reaction. I think that's when it can, you know, elicit change in people and questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the directions your career went in was First Cow, which I really, really enjoyed. There's an interview that I was reading where Kelly Reichardt was saying that she cast you in part because of your eyes and because you're more of a listener in that film as Cookie. You got a lot of dialogue in September 5th. What excites you more as an actor, reading the script where you got a scene where you got a lot of dialogue, or reading the scene where you haven't got much dialogue and you just get to react to what's going on?
I like the latter, yeah. I think that's more challenging. I like, you know, I'd like to do a film where I have no lines, where it's all just pushed, where you're like silent. You have to show it all through just your thoughts. I mean, I think for me that's the best acting. And you know, obviously, I think the person who changed that was Brando. He was he tipped the scale from where it was all words to where it was thoughts. And I'd love to be even to push that even deeper. There's just something, and it's scary. It's a scary thing because you don't know if it's going to work or not. You don't know if it's going to translate. There's something much easier about relying on language because you're able to say it and make it clear. There's a lot more uncertainty in the quiet and trying to express it through just your own thoughts and your own, you know, willingness to be present in a scene. It's something that I hope to continue to explore. Not that I don't love like a talkie, you know, Big Short was one of those where we're just talking, and it's a lot of fun and it's great, but it really tests you and pushes you as an actor when you have to do it through silence. Yeah.
Do you often think about the characters you play and what they would do the weeks, months, years after the film?
No. I tend to let it go. I like to let it go. It's weird. It's like it's like playing a character is like, it's like going to an Airbnb. Like you live in it for a minute, and then I think you got to just let it go. You have the memories of it, but it's yours for a moment. But then once you shoot it and you're wrapped, it becomes so many other people's, and they get to run with it. I mean, first it becomes the directors, then it becomes the editors, then if you have a studio, it becomes the studios. And then at the end of the day, it becomes the viewers. And I mean, you go to something like Letterboxd now, and you see so many, you know, just totally different perspectives of what that character means to them, or what the story means to them, and everyone has such differing points of view. So I think if you cling too tightly to a character you play, you won't be open to those other points of view, and it is a gift for other people. It's not yours to keep, it's yours to give away. So I'm of the camp of just, when they say wrapped, then the character's gone.
Just gotta let it go.
Yeah.
And now, unfortunately, I got to let you go.
All right.
But this has been really fun. I love watching you work.
Thank you.
Your career is so varied, it's so nuanced. I'm looking forward to watching what you do next. But another 20 years.
Yeah.
Another 20 after that.
Hopefully we're still here.